This segment is brought to you by Cardiovascular Institute of the South, providing our patients the highest quality cardiovascular care available. All right, welcome back to Bayou Time. I'm Martin Falls, and once again, CIS doing some new and great things here in the area. We have Dr. Pradeep Nair. Good to see you, Doc.
Nice to see you, Martin. Always a pleasure.
Oh, we talked about peripheral artery disease so many times, but just recently, you did a procedure. Again, that's just, it blows my mind. Y'all do so many of these and do them so well, but y'all are constantly advancing and learning from the past. Where do you want to start? Because there's so many things we could talk about.
Well, I mean, you know, the main point of everything that we do in the cath lab, and my passion for the last 11 years since I've been in Houma, has been peripheral artery disease and trying to get patients feeling better, avoid limb amputations. And we've truly become experts in the field and globally. I mean, they look to us in Houma as experts. And, you know, over the course of years, and starting with, you know, our founder, Craig Walker, obviously, who's my mentor and has taught me a lot over the many, many years I worked with him. We've learned to understand better how to treat patients with really complex peripheral artery disease or blockages in their legs. And, you know, we get a lot of devices. They actually come to us to try to see if these devices are appropriate for patients to be used. And having the experience, we now know which devices can be beneficial for patients and maybe which are not so beneficial. So a lot of expertise over the last many, many, many years, and the whole battle is to fight PAD, and that's our goal, and that's our mission. And so we have had 3 firsts in the state of Louisiana, one in the country, which one of the first ones that we did in the state of Louisiana was a device called the Artix device. This is a device that is used to treat patients who have acute or sudden onset of clot formation in their leg. That can be a very serious and deadly scenario that can happen to patients. They could lose their legs quite quickly or sometimes die from issues like that. But now at Terrebonne General, we have the ability to evacuate these clots very effectively. We had many devices in the past, but one of the benefits of this device is almost like a fishing basket. You're able to send it down the leg and you're able to retract it and pull out clot right on the spot, and you can actually see it, and we can understand what kind of clot that they had in their leg. So that's
How do you get it past the clot? You burrow through it?
Yeah, so we use wires. Okay. We have specialty wires that are able to navigate down through blockage, and we know right away if it's a fresh clot or if it's something that's been there for a long time, because there are 2 different animals. I mean, one with a fresh clot, you have to be very, very careful because it can embolize. It can go all over the leg, and that could be a very, very serious situation. So we are able to use that. We have ultrasound, intravascular ultrasound, that we can look inside of the blood vessel and assess if it's acute or chronic, you know. And so these devices can all help get rid of acute clots. So we have that capability. Terrebonne. In the past, when I first came here, a lot of what we did was thrombolytics or the clot busting medicines. And, you know, we've gotten away from that because clot busting medicines carry with it 1% risk of a life-threatening bleed, and it could be in the brain. And if you get a brain bleed, that could be, you know, life-altering in many, many ways. And so if we can get it out with a procedure, same time when we're there, we'll do that, you know, 10 times out of 10.
So when they told you were coming to South Louisiana and you were going fishing, you didn't know you would be fishing in the arteries.
Yeah, no, we do a lot of fishing, you know, fishing in the arteries, fishing in the veins. Got a lot of different devices and tools now that it's almost like you're grabbing a bunch of crab out with a net, you know, or whatever it may be. So we have a lot of tools available to us. But yeah, I mean, it's really an art form. You know, we talk about science and art. You know, knowing when to use these devices really takes you into the art part of it.
When you put the wire down, is it a heated wire? Is it a cool wire?
No, there are different types of wires that we have available to us. That, you know, there's so many now. The technology has skyrocketed from
Like
when
a socket set, you choose which one works best.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Walker always talks about his days when he first started. I mean, he had one wire available to him. Now we have hundreds of wires available to us. So our job is to understand which wire is best. They're hydrophilic, so meaning when they go into the blood vessel, it is able to navigate through aqueous or liquid mediums, right? So it can travel very easily and snake its way through. We use those in the heart too, and the coronary arteries, just as much as we use them in the legs. But there's different diameters and sizes of these wires, and so we have to understand which wire we're using, because some of them are spears, and you have to. It's a very important topic. We try to educate others on when to use which wire.
I forget when I filmed in the early days, late 80s, early 90s, we were filming so many procedures. Over then it was mind-blowing, and today it is really mind-blowing. So when we come back from the break, we'll talk a little bit more about how important are these new procedures for a guy like you to do your job well.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Dr. Pradeep Nair, don't go away. This segment was brought to you by Cardiovascular Institute of the South, providing our patients the highest quality cardiovascular care available. All right, welcome back. I'm joined by Dr. Pradeep Nair. Not only a great doctor, but he's a great guy. So thank you again for joining us.
Thanks again.
You know, we talked about the socket set, maybe the screwdriver sets are better when you have different, heads on the screws to get them out and make it work. And you can't take, the Phillips or the flathead. They work good for different things. Mm-hmm. Much like you were talking about, when a patient comes to you, if you get 10 patients, you might see 10 different kinds of clots, right?
Oh, you always do. I mean, every single patient. This is the most important thing that I've learned over the last however many years I've been a doctor. Interventional cardiologist, I should say, is every patient, every leg attached to that patient has some variance. Something is variable, and you have to be ready to change on the fly. It's one of those one of those skills that you just have to acquire, and it has to be experience that allows you to acquire it, because patients can have anatomical variance where their anatomy is not the same as the next, right? Yeah. We see that a lot. And, the blockage, the clots that we deal with, they could be chronic. They could have been sitting there for years or causing a lot of obstruction for years, and it's not a blockage that just happened. Bottom line is that we have so many tools available to us now. And what we as experienced operators have to understand is that every tool that we use may not be right for that patient. Our job is to figure out which tool is right for that patient to get the flow restored back to their toe.
When you're doing a procedure like you're doing, I always take it back to Nintendo or Atari, and people are pretty good with those toggle switches. Yeah. You got to be pretty fluid with your hands to maneuver, and you got to be brave enough and have enough courage enough to know, okay, I got to make the turn here and get it. Yeah. You got to be confident.
Yeah. I grew up in the video game era. I started with the Commodore 64, and then I went to my friend had the Atari. I didn't have an Atari, and then it was the Nintendo Entertainment System. Anyway, my kids watch this, they know what I'm talking about, because it does lead to some hand-eye coordination. I really admit it, but it also leads to my glasses probably too. But I will say this, and there's no reset button on video games, right? So we got to get the job done right when we deal with a patient.
That's right.
But we have to be ready we maneuver on a screen just like we do. It is like a video game in the sense that you're looking at a screen and I'm manipulating my hands and watching on a TV screen what's happening. But what we're also doing at the same time is we're trying to assess or feel. With experience, you can feel the type of blockage with your hands. There's some tactile feedback that you get. And we use ultrasound inside the blood vessel so we can evaluate what's going on inside, right? Mm-hmm. What is the cause of this? And so that can then lead to us deciding what tool do we have available to us, whether it be at Terrebonne General, whether it be at our ambulatory surgery center in Gray. What tool do we have available to us that will get the job done for the betterment of the patient, right? You know, we have tools that can work pretty much anywhere, but what can provide the best long-term outcome? That's the goal of what we try to do and what we're trying to evaluate. And that's why we are the first in a lot of these things, because they come to us because we have the experience in understanding what works and what does not work. And so that's where we're
I
at.
used to joke with my friends. They'd say, we're going to continuing education. I say, yeah, oh, you're going to Colorado, you're going to do something. But I've learned one thing. When we cover these new horizons, seminars and just big thing, it is continuing education like people have never seen. It changes so much on a yearly basis, and your field changes so much that y'all truly are. Y'all not only there to learn, y'all are teaching a lot of these.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of, you know, in my practice has transitioned a lot into the education side of things. So we are educating others. We have practitioners coming in from around the country wanting to learn how to treat complex blockages in patients with complex disease. And so we have been doing that. Dr. Walker's been doing that for decades. Yeah. And really, I've been working alongside him very, very closely now for 11 years, and we've been doing that. We've been educating.
He was born to teach, wasn't he?
He is a teacher, yeah. But, you know, just kind of by osmosis, you become the teacher too.
Right.
You know, student become teacher.
The mentor.
Yeah,
the mentor. So with all this going on and the different things that we're learning, what are we looking at in the next 5 years? Can you even predict where we're going to be?
Yeah. No, it's hard to predict, but I will say that, you know, here's the scope of the problem, peripheral artery disease. So we have 25 million Americans suffering from peripheral artery disease. Now, of that 25 million, not all of them are having symptoms that require them to go to the cath lab. Our goal is not to just go into the cath lab and do a procedure. That 25 million needs to be on some form of medical therapy to help reduce the risk. But I will say that of that 25 million, about 3 million to 4 million have what's called critical limb ischemia, the end stages of it. So the next several years and decades of my career are going to be focused on how do we prevent patients from losing their limbs. And so that is where all of the technology that we're using, so for example, that the devices that we use, the SPUR retrievable scaffold system, or the Aperta balloons that we use first in Louisiana, those are devices that can help stem the tide of critical limb ischemia, because that is a whole entity in and of itself. What happens in these patients is they have 3 blood vessels below the knee. You need 1 to keep your leg, 2 is better than 1, and 3 is better than 2. We'd like to keep as many as we can, but the problem is that when you dilate them and open them up, they can close. It's called recoil. You open it up with a balloon and it can close. We have to figure out how to keep them open long term.
I'm going to get you back on. This is interesting stuff. I love it. Thank you so much. I know you're going to get back to work. So Dr. Pradeep Nair, they are rolling at CIS. We'll see you in the next episode. This segment was brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your partner is good health.